In Venezuela, the electoral silence is in place after the candidates closed their campaigns ahead of the presidential elections of next July 28th. On Friday, Cubans commemorate the 71st anniversary of the assault on the Moncada and Carlos Manuel de Céspedes barracks, also known as the Day of National Rebelliousness. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, the electoral ban came into force ahead of the July 28th elections, marking the closing of the presidential candidates' campaigns. In this context, authorities of the Ministry of Defense and Interior Relations, Justice and Peace established a series of mandatory measures for compliance with the electoral exercise. The actions to be held starting on Friday include a dry law and the prohibition of carrying weapons, as well as celebrating political acts and gatherings, all implemented with the purpose of protecting the citizens. For their part, the National Electoral Council began the process to install the polling stations in 30,000 voting centers set up throughout the national territory. On the other hand, in an exclusive interview for teleSUR, the Attorney General Tarek William Saab assured that Venezuela will have a peaceful vote after overcoming the destabilizing attempts of the far right.
People know what is going to happen in Venezuela, a peaceful vote. You see that they planned from January to July that there will be a violence, that a climate would escalate. We had to detain people from the Brazalete Blanco operation, a military operation to attack bears in Táchira. Then they were going to attack the Paramaconi bears in Monagas. Even 2 gunmen were arrested on the Ibarra Avenue at the moment that President Nicolás Maduro has just registered to generate chaos, shootings, and that we would arrive at the electoral campaign in July in a climate of anarchy. It didn't happen.
In addition, Attorney General William Saab assured that as a legal arm, they will not accept that the far right wing impose a narrative of fraud in Venezuela.
This is a wise people, and here there is a legal arm that is the holder of the criminal action that is in the public prosecutor office. Here are courts, here there is an immense popular force, and we are not going to accept the fascism, neo-fascism, without winning an election imposed a narrative. I explained it to you. What is the information we have? To sign fraud of some clandestine center without having the results. This is serious. Without having the results, say that 20 million vote in favor of the candidate of the poster, and to say that they are going to proclaim his victory. Who proclaims is the National Electoral Council. You cannot invent. They had planned a buffalo theater of a proclamation. Where? If who proclaimed victory is the National Electoral Council.
In this context, our special envoy in Caracas, Brian Mayer, brings all the updates on this final stretch ahead of the presidential elections.
Venezuela's official 2024 presidential election campaign season ended last night at midnight. The National Electoral Council has announced that this year's elections are guaranteed to be free, transparent, and trustworthy. And in order to guarantee this to happen, there's a series of measures that have come into place today that will remain in place until the end of voting on Sunday afternoon. First of all sales of alcoholic beverages are prohibited. Secondly, newspapers, radios, and television stations are not allowed to promote any candidates, to provide any kind of election analysis, or talk about polls until after the elections are over. In order to secure the integrity of the entire electoral system, the military has enacted the Republic Plan. The Republic Plan is a deployment of 188,000 personnel, among them military, police, and firefighters, to guarantee the integrity and the security of the voting machines in thousands of voting centers around the country. So it's a regular working day here in Caracas. I'm in the center of the city, and as you can see behind me, people are just going about on their normal day-to-day business, working, shopping, enjoying the nice weather here in Caracas. And the elections will start on Sunday morning. All eyes turn to Venezuela for the 2024 presidential elections, as over 20 million voters are invited to come.
On Friday, Cubans commemorate the 71st anniversary of the assault on the Moncada and Carlos Manuel de Céspedes barracks, also known as the Day of National Rebelliousness. The province of Santi Espíritus hosted the central ceremony, which was attended by Army General Raúl Castro and Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel, among other senior government authorities. Over 5,000 locals participated in the encounter, representing the Cuban people. In addition, more than 130 friends of the revolution from over 24 countries were present as well. Furthermore, over 30 artists and amateurs performed in the act, presenting songs and poems for the Day of National Rebelliousness. The Vice President of Cuba, Salvador Valdez, pointed out that the commemorative date marked a definitive turning point for the revolution.
July 26, 1953 represented a definitive turning point in Cuba's historical revolution. It set the course we have followed to the present, defined truths of permanent value, established ethical principles for all times, and set the unchanging attitude to be maintained in the face of threats, challenges, and hardships, no matter how difficult they may seem.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In the United States, Hollywood video game actors announced they would go on strike over concerns about artificial intelligence. The strike, the second called by video game dubbing and motion capture actors under the Screen Actors Guild American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, begins on Friday. The move comes after nearly 2 years of negotiations with video game giants, including divisions of Activision, Warner Bros., and Walt Disney, over a new interactive media agreement. SAG-AFTRA negotiators say progress has been made on wages and job security in the video game agreement, but the two sides remain divided over the regulation of generative artificial intelligence.
We've announced a strike on our video game contract, as of 12:01 a.m. tomorrow, work will stop on all affected titles for all members of this union until we are able to receive a counter from our bargaining group that gives us the AI protection specifically that we need to move forward safely in our work.
On Thursday in the United States, the Vice President of the nation, Kamala Harris, after a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, stressed that there is a hopeful movement to achieve peace agreement in Gaza.
So I just had a frank and constructive meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu. I told him that I will always ensure that Israel is able to defend itself, including from Iran and Iran-backed militias such as Hamas and Hezbollah. Let us all do what we can to prevent the suffering of innocent civilians, and let us condemn anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate of any kind. And let us work to unite our country. I thank you.
Meanwhile, demonstrators in the United States gathered near the White House to reject the compromise between Joe Biden's government and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and demand an end to the Israeli occupational army's genocide war against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. It is worth noting that mobilizations nationwide reject the Israeli Prime Minister's visit to the United States, in addition to demand the arrest of Netanyahu for committing war crimes while denouncing the U.S. government's supply of arms to the Tel Aviv regime. In Palestine, displaced citizens in central Gaza Strip expressed anger and surprise on Thursday over Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's speech to the U.S. Congress, where he used the high-profile address to emphasize long-standing and close ties between the United States and Israel.
Interviewed civilians in Palestine said that they were expecting Netanyahu to declare a ceasefire, but on the contrary, he vowed to continue the war in the Gaza Strip, stating his willingness to achieve total victory against Hamas.
He did not mention ceasefire or anything. He wants to continue with what he's doing to kill and destroy the Palestinian people. He wants to wipe out resistance, but he cannot do that, so he's wiping out the Palestinian people.
Citizens also expected a truce to be achieved, but Netanyahu has been avoiding it, claiming he will have victory all over Gaza.
Regarding Netanyahu's speech, we were expecting that there will be a truce. This is our only hope during this period, but we were severely shocked. He used to bombard civilians and he used to bombard pregnant women. He used to demolish homes on the heads of their inhabitants, the shells and missiles that he hits us with, as if they are hitting mountains and rocks and not human beings.
Netanyahu's visits to the United States have been severely criticized by Israeli citizens, Palestinian citizens, and even citizens in the United States, where several activists were detained for staging a protest in the capital.
On Friday in Palestine, the Ministry of Health in Gaza reported that the death toll reached 39,000 martyrs in 294 days of Israel genocide. In this regard, they also denounced that during the last 24 hours, the people of Gaza were victims of new attacks in civilian areas in and attend to the wounded. For his part, the Gaza Health Ministry also confirmed that 1,175 killed by the Tel Aviv regime. The number of wounded reached 90,403 people. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Laos, the plenary session of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, opened in Vientiane. Foreign ministers of Southeast Asia are attending the three-day meeting, which aims at strengthening the region's external cooperation. On the opening stage of the summit, the Asian members discussed the balance of the community-building efforts and the organization's external relations. The ministers further reaffirmed their commitment to support the chairmanship of the ASEAN by the Lao People's Democratic Republic under the theme ASEAN Enhancing Connectivity and Resilience. In Mongolia, herders and local non-governmental organizations ECOSUM urge companies and the population to combat plastic pollution. A current global predicament, the annual production of plastic worldwide is 460 million tons, and by 2064 the figure is expected to triple if governments don't take measures to curb it. Since 2018, local non-governmental organization ECOSUM has arranged a top recycling facility to encourage citizens to bring local waste to the entity for processing. However, a nearby field in the Kishik Under district is polluted with a mountain of plastic waste just a few meters away from where the horses grazed. In this context, a herder and a non-governmental organization coordinator shared their views on the matter. In China, Typhoon Gaemi flooded large parts of Taiwan province, leaving 3 people dead and more than 200 injured. In the city of Kaohsiung, in the southern China, thousands of people were evacuated after the passage of Typhoon Gaemi, while schools and offices in several cities were closed and stock market operations were suspended by government decree. According to the Meteorological Service, Gaemi registered sustained winds of 190 kilometers per hour as it advances towards Taiwan, which makes it the strongest typhoon to make landfall in 8 years. On Thursday, the tourist Jasper town lost an important area as wildfires continue to ravage Canada. Canada suffers a devastating heat wave. Although firefighters have been battling the blaze for hours, they have not been able to prevent the loss of hundreds of acres. The fire emergency has been in effect since Wednesday noon, and firefighters are working hard to keep the area under control. British Columbia and Alberta, Canada's two westernmost provinces, are facing a wave of high temperatures that has led to hundreds of wildfires. The blazes have prompted the evacuation of tens of thousands of people in the two provinces. On Thursday, during a speech in the framework of the first anniversary in power of the current Niger administration, the country's military chief General Abdou Rahamane Tiani stated that the nation is marching towards full sovereignty.
No state, no interstate organization will dictate to us how to behave, nor its agenda in terms of strategic or diplomatic partnerships. And those who fantasize about the imminent return to power of regimes that have fallen under their sway are in for a rude awakening. Before it's too late, they'll have to face the facts. Our march towards full sovereignty is inexorable.
On Friday, France suffered a massive attack on its high-speed rail network just hours before the start of the Olympic Games. In this regard, the National Association of French Railways warned that the disruption will have a serious impact on all travelers in the country, as local authorities reported that the heart of the network was hit and pointed out that in particular the connections between Paris and the western, northern and eastern regions will be affected. As a consequence, the French railway company is out of air and reportedly working against the clock to restore service as soon as possible and ensure the safety of passengers.
A new transport and traffic plan will be presented early this afternoon. The National Association of French Railways is committed to communicating with passengers directly, in a targeted way, about the new solutions and alternatives that will be offered to them, and everyone is on deck for this. The investigation is starting. I call on everyone to be cautious. What we know, what we can see, is that this operation was prepared, coordinated, that sensitive points were targeted, which shows some form of knowledge of the network to know where to strike.
The opening ceremony of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games is underway, marking a milestone in events of this kind, and it's the first being held outside a stadium. In this way, a total of 205 delegations participating. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.